My name is Rachel, and this is what happened when my own mother decided my $4 million company belonged to my sister because she had kids and I didn't. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I waited. If you've been quietly written out of something you built, tell me in the comments. The conference room screen still showed our quarterly numbers when my phone started buzzing across the table. Not once, not twice, 3 times in under a minute. Family group chat. Then my mother's name. Then a text that said, "Come home. Now." No one else in the room commented. They didn't have to. I closed my laptop, told the team to keep going without me, and grabbed my bag. By the time I pulled into my parents' driveway in Austin, the sun was already low and the porch light was on like someone had planned this. Ellen was waiting in the living room with the family attorney seated beside her, briefcase on the floor. Laura sat on the couch, both hands resting on her stomach, eyes fixed on a spot near the window. She didn't look up when I walked in. "We're going to be direct," my mother said. "This company needs stability. Laura has children. You don't. So she'll be taking over operations." That was the whole explanation. I set my bag down and stayed standing. "Are we talking about ownership?" I asked, "or operations?" Ellen didn't answer. She reached for a folder instead. The attorney slid it across the coffee table. Thick, tabs, sticky notes. The company name was printed cleanly on the cover. The effective date caught my eye. Tomorrow. "This doesn't take effect until," I started. "Tomorrow," Ellen said. "It's already handled." Laura exhaled for the first time since I'd arrived. "It's temporary," she said, "just until things settle." No one defined what things meant. The attorney cleared his throat and handed me a pen. I clicked it once. Nothing happened. I clicked again, still dead. "Do you have another?" I asked. He swapped it out without comment. I signed where the tabs told me to sign. One line, no notes, no edits. I slid the pen back across the table. Ellen looked relieved. Laura finally met my eyes. The look lasted half a second. "Thank you for understanding," my mother said. I picked up my bag. Outside, the air felt heavier than it had in the car. The porch steps creaked under my shoes as I went down them. Halfway to the driveway, my phone vibrated again. An email notification lit the screen. Subject line, "Executive Leadership Meeting Organizer, Laura Bennett," scheduled for the following morning. The calendar app was still open as my foot reached the last step, the screen refreshing, loading more names into the invite list, the vibration continuing in my hand. By the next morning, the decision had already learned how to introduce itself without me. Emails came in addressed to Leadership, with Laura's name added neatly in the CC line, always after Ellen's. A vendor asked whether invoices should reflect the new structure. Someone from HR forwarded a memo about updated reporting lines. The language was calm, polite, finished. Family messages stacked up too. Aunts, cousins, people who hadn't called in years suddenly understood the situation perfectly. "She's a mom. It makes sense. This is best for everyone. You'll see it one day." At the office, Laura stood in the kitchen pouring coffee she didn't usually drink. "We're just trying to create balance," she said when someone asked how she was feeling. "Work and family shouldn't compete." Ellen nodded beside her like this had been rehearsed. "This is best for everyone," my mother repeated. No one asked what everyone included. At my desk, the badge reader blinked red. I tried again, slower this time. Same result. A security guard leaned over from reception. "Hang on," he said. "I think they updated access." Updated was a gentle word. It sounded temporary. It wasn't. Marcus texted while I waited for IT. "Coffee?" The place sat 2 blocks from the office, loud enough to hide conversations. Marcus arrived first, already holding a cup he didn't like. "Don't argue with her," he said before sitting down. "Don't argue with any of them. Collect things, dates, emails, documents." "I'm not planning to argue." "That's good," he said, "because they already decided you lost." His phone buzzed. He glanced down, then slid it across the table. "Client asked who's signing renewals now," he said. "Didn't ask Laura, asked you." That landed differently than everything else that morning. Back at the office, a calendar notification popped up before I could close it. Culture Reset, Conference Room A. The same room where I'd walked teams through bad quarters without raising my voice. The same whiteboard still had my handwriting on it. Laura's name was listed as host. The meeting invite included Ellen for support. By noon, the story had settled into something clean and easy to repeat. Laura was stepping up. Ellen was protecting the company. Everyone else was relieved they didn't have to choose sides. The badge finally worked after IT reset it. 10 minutes later, another email arrived. "Access adjustment pending. Please contact your administrator." Marcus texted again. "They're building a record," he wrote. "Stay boring." In the afternoon, Ellen stopped by unannounced. She didn't sit. "You don't need to take this personally," she said. "This is about structure." A designer hovered near the door, pretending to organize samples. "Board meeting next week," Ellen added. "We'll formalize signatures and branding." "Just to keep things clean." She smiled like the word meant harmless. That evening, I stayed late, mostly because leaving felt premature. The office emptied around me. Lights shut off, row by row. When the elevator doors opened, the badge reader beeped again. Red. The same guard looked up, apologetic this time. "System's catching up," he said. "Probably nothing." His radio crackled. "Hang tight," he added, already stepping closer. The doors stayed open while the system processed. My phone vibrated in my hand with another meeting update. Another CC. Another small correction to the new normal. The message from Marcus arrived before noon, short enough to miss if you blinked. "Check your email, not the company one." The attachment opened into a spreadsheet with timestamps, registration numbers, and my name typed out more times than felt necessary. Trademark filings, logo, slogan, both registered 2 years earlier, filed under an LLC that shared an address with my old accountant. Everything clean, everything paid for. A second message followed. "You didn't imagine that pen thing. It's temporary, buys them time." That explained the calm. The way no one rushed. The reason Laura could talk about balance without knowing what balance meant. They weren't trying to replace anything. They were borrowing it. The company website refreshed around 3 in the morning. A designer forwarded the update like it was a win. "New header is live," he wrote. "Let us know if tweaks are needed." The logo was mine. The slogan, too. No credit, no footnote, just reused, resized, and sent back into circulation. Ellen followed up with a draft email from leadership, already formatted, ready to go. It explained continuity, stability, the importance of family values in uncertain markets. Laura's name sat at the bottom, bolded. She signed it before noon. An hour later, an email landed in my inbox with a subject line I recognized immediately. Unauthorized use of brand assets. It was a template I'd written years ago, copied from my own files, still carrying the same phrasing I'd used when vendors crossed lines. The sender name was the company. The signature block listed Laura as interim executive. The irony wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I replied once. "Please confirm who authorized this message." No answer. The office had gone mostly empty by late afternoon. A few people stayed behind, working around the silence the way people do when they don't want to be seen choosing sides. Laura's door was open, lights off. Her phone rang on the desk while she wasn't there. We crossed paths in the hallway 10 minutes later. She stopped when she saw me. "We should talk," I said. "Now's not great." "It'll be quick." She glanced toward her office, then down the hall. "Okay." The room still smelled like printer toner and new furniture. She didn't sit. "You're using assets you don't own," I said. "You need to stop." Her hands folded and unfolded. "Mom says it's fine," she replied. "This is just part of the transition." Transition to what? To stability. That word again. "I need you to confirm," I said, "that you're aware of who holds the trademark." Laura reached for her phone. "I should loop Ellen in." "I asked you," I said, "not her." She didn't answer. The call went through. Ellen's voice filled the room on speaker. "We're not doing this right now," my mother said. "There are bigger things happening." "Brand usage is one of them," I said. "This isn't helpful," Ellen replied. "You're emotional." Laura stared at the desk. I ended the call. The printer in the corner whirred to life without being asked. A page slid halfway out and stopped. Jammed. Brand usage policy. I pulled it free, folded it once, and slipped it into my bag. Laura watched, lips pressed thin. "Are you threatening us?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm documenting." That night the calendar shifted again. The board meeting moved up, 48 hours earlier. The reason field stayed blank. I drafted one email, the kind people forward to lawyers. Short, specific, neutral. Unauthorized use of registered brand assets must cease immediately. This message serves as formal notice. I read it twice, changed nothing, and sent it to the addresses that mattered. The reply didn't come from Laura or Ellen. It came from the calendar app. Board meeting updated. New time, new agenda. The phone vibrated again while the sent confirmation still sat on the screen, unread, waiting for whatever came next. Call came from procurement, not legal. "We're pausing the renewal," the woman said, "just until there's clarity on authority." She spoke like this was routine, like contracts didn't expire based on dates and signatures, but moods. An hour later, the second client sent an email instead of calling. Short, polite, same reason. Confusion in authority. They'd circle back next quarter. Both contracts together accounted for a number big enough that no one pretended it was fine. By noon, Ellen's version of events had found its audience. A consultant I'd worked with for years stopped by my desk and asked if everything was okay. "You seem hard to work with lately," he said, trying to soften it. I heard there were concerns. Concerns traveled faster than facts. Laura's move came next. Not directly, through systems. An automated notice hit my inbox. Access change request submitted, pending approval. 5 minutes later, another one. Account privileges updated. I clicked refresh. The screen logged me out. Email replies bounced back with a neat line of text explaining that the address no longer existed in the directory. At reception, a security badge tray sat half open. Mine was missing. Laura didn't come out of her office. Ellen didn't call. The silence felt intentional, like a hallway you're meant to walk down without stopping. IT arrived with a cart in the afternoon. "Just standard procedure," the tech said. "We need the laptop." "Whose procedure?" I asked. He shrugged. "Administration." The computer left the desk without ceremony. Power cord wrapped, asset tag scanned. It looked smaller being wheeled away. That was when the timing detail finally showed its teeth. The effective date on the paperwork. Tomorrow. Tomorrow meant today still belonged to someone else. It meant there was no overlap window, no grace period, no space to prepare. By the time access closed, the authority had already shifted. Marcus called while I stood in the parking lot with nothing to carry. "This isn't about the contracts," he said. "They're not protecting the business. They're protecting control." "What do I do?" I asked. "You stop trying to fix their story," he replied. "You build your own." Back upstairs, the office had changed shape. People avoided eye contact. Conversations ended when I passed. Laura's name sat at the top of the internal directory now, bolded. An all-hands invite went out for the next morning. New leadership, new chapter. I didn't attend. The co-working space sat 6 blocks away, close enough to feel temporary. A front desk attendant slid a guest badge across without asking many questions. "Wi-Fi passwords on the wall," she said. "Printer jams sometimes." That felt familiar. The personal laptop opened slower than the work one had. Old bookmarks, old drafts. The inbox filled with forwarded messages from clients who didn't know where to send things anymore. One asked directly whether Laura could sign. Another asked if the brand was still the same company. I answered neither. Instead, a browser window opened to the state registration site. The form loaded with its clean boxes and drop-downs. Entity type, registered agent, mailing address. The cursor blinked at the top. Company name. Outside, traffic moved the way it always had. Inside the space, someone laughed too loudly on a call about seed funding. The co-working space emptied out in stages. Chairs rolled back. Keyboards went silent. Someone shut off the espresso machine without asking if anyone else needed it. By the time the clock on my screen read 11:47 p.m., the room belonged to whoever hadn't figured out where else to go. Old emails sat open in a row of tabs, calendar invites from years ago, contracts marked final that had never felt final. A legal folder labeled Later stared back from the desktop like it had been waiting. This was the part no one else saw. Not Ellen, not Laura, not the people who had already adjusted their signatures. I had assumed competence spoke for itself, that if the numbers were solid and clients stayed and people got paid on time, respect would follow. It worked everywhere except home. The phrase, "she needs stability for the kids," had been used before. Not about the company, but about holidays, schedules, money I was asked to front and never invoice. Each time it had sounded temporary, reasonable, family. Those moments stacked up quietly. No contracts, no counter-signatures. Just trust. Marcus's message popped up while I scrolled through a renewal from 3 years back. You seeing the pattern yet? A call followed before I could answer. They weren't improvising, he said. They were rehearsing. That landed harder than anything Ellen had said. We pulled up the client list together, cross-referencing signatures. Some deals were with the company. Others were with the entity that bore my name, drafted back when speed mattered more than structure. The clauses were clear. If the signer changed, the agreement could end without penalty. They followed you, Marcus said. They didn't follow the logo. That came with a cost. Taking those contracts meant leaving the rest behind. The office, the people, the version of myself that had been useful to the family. The good daughter image didn't survive that choice. An email from Ellen sat unopened. The subject line read, "Check in." I didn't open it. Instead, a new draft began, addressed to the largest client on the list. No pitch, no apology, just facts. Please confirm the authorized signatory on your current agreement. The cursor blinked at the end like it expected more. Marcus stayed on the line. You ready for the fallout, he asked. I'm ready for it to stop. That was true. Arguing hadn't slowed anything. Explaining had been interpreted as weakness. Evidence had been ignored until it couldn't be. This wasn't about proving who was right. It was about closing the door in a way that stayed closed. A reply came in faster than expected. We've been trying to reach you. Who's allowed to sign now? That question carried everything the past week had avoided. I answered with a single line. I am. The clock ticked over to midnight while the sent confirmation sat unread. The space felt larger after that, less borrowed. Another tab opened. State registration. The entity form waited patiently, the company name field still blank from earlier. It didn't rush me. It didn't assume anything. A message from Laura appeared, then disappeared. Typing bubble. Gone. Ellen's email followed up with another. Let's talk tomorrow. Tomorrow had become a word that only benefited one side. The laptop lid closed with a soft click as the day changed. The screen went dark, leaving the reflection of someone who didn't fit neatly into the roles already assigned. The lawsuit arrived before breakfast. Laura filed it through the same firm Ellen had kept on retainer for years. The language was careful, almost affectionate. Tortious interference, damage to business relationships. No numbers yet, just intent. The timing wasn't accidental. It landed hours after my email reached the biggest client. By noon, that client walked it back. We may have spoken too soon, their counsel said on the phone. There's internal disagreement on who represents continuity. Continuity again. The word kept showing up, like it had equity. Marcus forwarded something an hour later. Old documents this time. Power of attorney drafts, amended trust language, filings that never made noise because they didn't need to. Ellen's name appeared everywhere, always positioned one step behind the action. Oversight. Safeguard, temporary authority. This wasn't about kids, Marcus said. It was about you having leverage she couldn't undo later. That explained the lawyer in the living room the first night. The speed, the confidence. Ellen hadn't reacted to anything. She'd executed. The family attorney had never represented me. Not really. He represented the structure that kept control distributed just enough to be invisible. The phrase, "it's temporary," wasn't reassurance. It was a stall. Time to reuse the brand. Time to blur authorship. Time to make the market forget who built what. Laura didn't call. Her attorney did. "We're advising your client to cease direct outreach," he said. "This behavior is destabilizing." "I'm not your client," I replied. That remains to be seen. By afternoon, the inbox changed tone. Messages that once asked for clarity now asked for distance. A board member suggested mediation. Ellen sent a single line, "You're forcing our hand." That hand had been positioned long before mine ever reached for it. Evidence stopped behaving the way it was supposed to. Screenshots lost context. Emails were reframed as unofficial. Templates I'd written were described as internal drafts. Anything tied to the company was suddenly not mine to speak for. So the order changed. Instead of responding, documents moved. Instead of correcting narratives, notices went out. Systems do better work than people when it comes to enforcement. The Trademark Monitoring Service pinged first. Unauthorized use detected. Automated alert, no emotion, just a log. Then the hosting provider flagged a conflict. Same assets, same identifiers, wrong account. Those triggers didn't care about family. Marcus stayed quiet while the pieces aligned. No encouragement, no strategy talk, just presence. "They'll think you're bluffing," he said eventually. "That's fine." The next email came from Ellen, longer this time. She asked to meet, to talk it through, to remember who we were to each other. It read like something meant to be printed and placed on a fridge. I didn't reply. Laura's suit escalated by the end of the day. Emergency motion, temporary relief, language designed to slow things down, to create the impression of chaos. Chaos favors the party with time. A courier arrived at the co-working space while I was packing up. Envelope. Legal service. My name typed cleanly on the front. Trademark infringement notice. Not addressed to me. Addressed to Laura. Issued automatically after the final threshold tripped. Time-stamped, logged, filed. The elevator doors opened as I stepped forward, phone vibrating in my hand. The notification preview showed just enough to understand what had happened. Unauthorized use confirmed. Cease and desist issued. The boardroom filled the way it always did when people expected conflict but hoped not to be blamed for it. Chairs scraped, screens connected. 2 clients joined by Zoom, faces boxed and neutral. Ellen sat at the center of the table. Laura took the seat beside her. Their attorney opened a leather folder and placed it neatly to his right. No one asked why I was there. "Let's keep this focused," the chair said. "We're here to resolve confusion." I nodded and set my laptop down. It stayed closed. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "I'm here to document." The attorney looked ready to interrupt. He didn't. The first folder slid across the table. Trademark registration. Clean copies, filing numbers visible, dates highlighted. "This shows ownership of the logo and slogan," I said. "Registered 2 years ago." Laura leaned forward. "We assume those belong to the company." "That assumption wasn't verified," I replied. Ellen lifted a hand. "We're family," she said. "There's an understanding." The second folder followed the first. Contracts this time. Signature blocks circled. Entity names aligned. "These agreements were executed with my entity," I said, "not the operating company." A client on Zoom cleared his throat. "That's not how it was presented to us." "It's how it was signed," I said. Laura shook her head. "We didn't know," she said. "No one told us there was a problem." The attorney nodded along, as if that settled something. The third folder stayed where it was. On Monday, I said, I sent a formal notice regarding unauthorized brand usage. Ellen exhaled slowly. You didn't need to escalate. I opened the laptop then. The email appeared on the screen. Timestamp intact. Recipients listed. Attached below it, a server log showing the website header update. Time matched to the minute. After the notice, silence took its turn. That doesn't prove intent, the attorney said. The door opened behind us. A process server stepped in, polite and efficient, and placed a document in front of Laura. Trademark infringement complaint. Filed, served. Ellen looked up. Is this necessary? She asked. The attorney scanned the first page and closed the folder. It already happened, he said. No one spoke after that. Not immediately. Papers moved, screens went dark. One of the clients signed off without comment. The other stayed, watching. The chair cleared his throat. We'll need a recess. I won't, I said, standing. Ellen reached for my sleeve. Rachel? I stepped away. The attorney asked Ellen and Laura to remain seated. He shut the folder and pushed his chair back just enough to mark a boundary. The sign came down on a Tuesday. I didn't see it in person. A former vendor sent a photo instead. The company name lifted off the brick, 2 bolts still sticking out like punctuation marks someone forgot to remove. No caption. He didn't need one. By then, the biggest clients were already gone. Not all at once, one email at a time. Some cited uncertainty. Others referenced legal advice. A few didn't explain at all. They just stopped replying. Laura hired her own attorney the week after the board meeting. A different firm, different tone. The filings shifted from confident to defensive. Deadlines stretched. Requests for extensions multiplied. Ellen stopped being copied. That part traveled through the family faster than anything else. Calls went unanswered. Cousins who once forwarded Ellen's messages stopped checking in. The problem solver role expired when there was nothing left to smooth over. One message came through late at night, direct this time. I did what I thought was right. No apology. No question mark, just a period. The phone stayed face down on the desk. Contact from that point on came through lawyers. Short, structured, predictable. The boundaries did the work conversations never could. Marcus found a small office space with windows that actually opened. 2 rooms, a shared table, internet that didn't cut out during calls. We didn't name it right away. There was no rush. The first client signed the following week, then another. No launch announcement, no press, just invoices sent and paid on time. I changed my emergency contact number. The old one stayed active long enough for banks and vendors to catch up, then went dark. The silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt accurate. An email arrived with the subject line, "Welcome aboard. New client. First official contract under the new entity." I dragged it into a folder without renaming it at first. Then the label stuck. Family Events. The name sat there like a private joke no one else could hear. A corner of the mouth lifted before the laptop closed. Packing happened in pieces. Books boxed, plants given away, things that belonged to Austin returned to the city without ceremony. Marcus drove the first load. I followed later. On the highway, the city thinned into exits and frontage roads. The sign for Austin appeared once more, then slipped behind the mirror. The turn signal clicked on. The wheel responded. Traffic adjusted. There was still work to do, emails to answer, meetings to schedule, a future that didn't ask permission before moving forward. The road opened up and the car merged cleanly, the lane change complete as the city receded, still operating, still convinced it had done what was necessary.